For a moment, Adam wondered if the walls were breathing. The pristine white panels curved like frozen waves, gleaming under the sterile glow of recessed lights. A faint hum pulsed through the Nexus facility, a rhythm too steady to be accidental, too quiet to question out loud. He adjusted his posture on the cold metal chair, his gray uniform crinkling like paper, and tried not to think about why a simple drug trial felt like the opening scene of a horror movie. Adam Fletcher was no stranger to hospitals. As a paramedic, he'd lived among the antiseptic scent of bleach and fear, the flatline tones of monitors. But that was before the girl in the burning car he couldn't save, before nights spent drinking and staring at ceilings, wondering when his pulse had started feeling hollow. So when a classified pharmaceutical trial promised a generous payout and a chance to do something useful again, he signed without reading too deep. It wasn't like anyone would miss him if something went wrong. The door sighed open, and in walked Perfection, wearing a lab coat. Dr. Elara Voss carried herself with a composure that felt engineered. Her dark hair framed a face that was almost too symmetrical, eyes the exact shade of polished chestnut. She smiled politely, but there was nothing warm behind it, just precision. "Mr. Fletcher," she said, her voice smooth like water over glass. "Thank you for your patience." "Adam," he corrected, standing to shake her hand. Her skin was cool, almost unnaturally so, but her grip was firm and flawless. "I've been through enough medical tests this week to be on a first-name basis with everyone." Her lips curved slightly. "Very well, Adam." She gestured toward the reclining chair at the center of the room. The walls around them glimmered faintly, as if lit from beneath. For a second, he could have sworn the floor flexed when he stepped on it. "So," he said as he settled in, "what's this miracle shot? Alien tech or something?" Ilara's pause lasted a fraction too long. Then she smiled again, the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Nothing so dramatic. A compound to accelerate cellular regeneration. The goal is faster healing for trauma patients. Sounds noble. He rolled up his sleeve, exposing veins that always popped easily. "Guess if it works, I'll be a walking Band-Aid." She prepped the syringe, her movements elegant, exact. "You may feel a mild warmth," she said, as though reading from a script. Then the needle slid into his skin. The warmth came, but it wasn't mild. It spread like liquid fire, curling through his muscles, wrapping around his bones. Adam clenched his jaw as the pulse hit a throb deep in his chest, then deeper, somewhere behind his ribs where no heartbeat should exist. For a moment, he swore something inside him moved. "You okay?" Ilara's voice was calm, but her gaze lingered on the monitor beside him. Reading scrolled too fast for him to follow. "Yeah," he managed. "Just feels weird." Like he hesitated, searching for words. Like something's alive in there. Her smile returned, softer this time. "That's normal. Your system is adjusting." But as she turned away to log her notes, her fingers tightened slightly on the stylus. Inside, her thoughts were already spiraling. Integration this early wasn't supposed to happen. Later, alone in the quarters, they'd assigned him a windowless cube humming with recycled air. Adam lay on the narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. The heat in his blood hadn't faded. If anything, it pulsed stronger, like a second heartbeat echoing in his veins. He shut his eyes, willing sleep to come. That's when he heard it, a whisper. Faint, melodic. Words in a language he didn't know, yet somehow understood. They slid through his skull like silk, curling in places no human voice could reach. "Adam." His eyes snapped open. The ceiling was still, the hum unchanged. But the voice remained, threading through his thoughts, patient and alien. And deep in his chest, the second heartbeat quickened. Asterisk. He woke choking on starlight. Adam bolted upright in the dark. chest heaving, the echo of something vast and endless clinging to his mind. His sheets were damp, muscles trembling as though he'd sprinted for miles. For a moment, he couldn't tell where he was. The cold room, the sterile hum, it all blurred with what he'd just seen. 2 moons hung in a sky of violet fire. Oceans shimmered silver under alien constellations. And a figure stood at the edge of a black cliff, her skin glowing like liquid crystal, patterns crawling across her body like constellations brought to life. She turned, and when her eyes met his, they burned blue like fractured lightning. Then he was back here, choking on air that felt too thin. He dragged his hands down his face, trying to laugh it off. Dreams, he muttered to no one. Just side effects, nothing to freak about. Except the taste of salt on his lips wasn't his sweat, it was the ocean from his dream. Somehow, he knew it. The next morning, the corridor outside his quarters stretched long and empty, white walls broken only by pulsing light panels. He walked toward the testing wing, every step echoing too loudly. His senses were on overdrive. He could feel vibrations through the floor, faint shifts in air pressure like whispers against his skin. It wasn't just hearing anymore. It was awareness, blooming under his skin like something alive. When the door slid open, Dr. Elara Voss was waiting, immaculate as ever in her pristine coat. She gave him a glance that lingered half a second too long, as if measuring something invisible. "Morning," Adam said, trying for casual. "You look like someone who knows how bad hospital coffee is." Her lips curved slightly. "Fortunately, we don't serve that here." She gestured toward the examination chair. "How did you sleep?" "Like a baby," he lied, settling in. Then he added, "If babies dream about glowing oceans and 2 freaking moons." Her hand froze over the datapad, only for a breath. "That's vivid," she resumed typing. "Any other unusual sensations? Dizziness? Pain?" Adam smirked. "Unless hearing conversations through walls counts." Her gaze flicked up sharply. "Through walls?" "Yeah." He tapped his temple. "Unless your security team just wanted me to know they were arguing about lunch at 2 in the morning." Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes darkened. "We'll run some additional scans." The scanner lowered over his head with a soft hum. As it swept across his skull, Adam felt the vibrations thrumming through his bones, syncing with the rhythm inside him, that second heartbeat, louder now, like something clawing to be free. His hands gripped the chair. For a split second, every nerve in his body lit up like a live wire. He saw more than white walls. He saw the room through the scanner's lens, the magnetic fields in the floor, the blood pulsing in Elara's veins. He flinched hard, and the scanner beeped an error tone. "Adam?" Elara's voice was softer now, almost careful. "What did you feel?" "Everything," he said before he could stop himself. "Like I was inside the machine. And you." Her pupils tightened, a microscopic tell that most people wouldn't notice. But Adam wasn't most people anymore. He could feel the ripple of her pulse from across the room. He tried to laugh it off, but his voice cracked. "Guess the meds are doing their thing, huh?" Elara forced a smile. "We'll make a note of it." She turned away quickly, but not before he caught something in her expression. Not fear exactly. Something sharper, calculating. Later, as she sent encrypted data to her superiors, her fingers hovered over the final report line. Phase 1 integration exceeds projections. Neural adaptation accelerating. Subject demonstrates sensory bleed and possible telepathic precursors. Her chest tightened. If the council saw these numbers, they'd order termination before Phase 2. That was protocol. That was safety. But as she glanced at Adam's file, at the man who joked about alien tech without knowing how close he was to the truth, Elara hesitated. In his quarters, Adam lay awake again, staring into the dark. Only this time, he didn't. Hear whispers. He understood them. We see you, Adam Fletcher. We've been waiting. And deep in his chest, the second heartbeat answered. His eyes were brown yesterday. Now, flecks of blue shimmered like trapped lightning. Adam saw them in the mirror as he leaned over the sink, splashing cold water on his face. The Nexus facility's water tasted metallic, faintly sweet, like it carried secrets in every drop. He gripped the edge of the counter, staring at himself. His features were the same square jaw, dark hair falling across his forehead, but the eyes betrayed him. They pulsed faintly, a rhythm he swore he could feel in his skull. He blinked hard, once, twice. The shimmer didn't vanish. A sharp knock at the door startled him. Adam? Ilara's voice, calm and melodic, drifted through the sealed panel. Time for today's neural mapping. He swallowed, forcing his voice steady. Yeah, sure. When the door slid open, she was there. Poised as always, hair sleek, lab coat falling like liquid ivory, her face too controlled to be entirely human. At least, that's what he thought now. Because every time he looked at her, something inside him whispered truths he shouldn't know. Her pulse thrummed not once, but twice. Her body emitted faint harmonics beyond human hearing, but Adam could hear them now like distant chimes, barely brushing the edge of perception. She guided him into the chair with the same precise grace as yesterday, her fingers brushing his wrist. The touch burned not painfully, but with an intensity that made his breath hitch. It wasn't attraction, not fully. It was awareness, electric and invasive, like his nerves had been rewired to feel her in wavelengths no human was built for. Asterisk. Any unusual experiences since yesterday? She asked, positioning the neural scanner above his head. Adam laughed, but it came out sharp. Define unusual? Vivid dreams? Yeah. Hearing people whisper when they're 50 feet away? Sure. Seeing things? Her hand froze mid-motion. Things? He met her gaze. Like light moving under my skin. Like I'm carrying a storm inside me. You ever get that, Doc? She didn't answer, and that silence told him more than words. The scanner descended with a hum, bathing him in soft pulses. At first, it was like yesterday buzzing warmth, vibration threading through his skull. Then something shifted. His thoughts stretched, reaching out instinctively. And something answered .elari. Not her voice, not exactly her presence, sliding like silk into his mind. Emotions brushed against his own. Restraint, urgency, something like guilt coiled in darkness. What are you doing? His voice was a whisper, but it vibrated with something deeper, something she felt. Ilara jerked back, eyes widening. The scanner flickered as if choking on static. You're linking. And then it happened so fast, so absolute, his vision fractured. For a heartbeat, a lab vanished. He saw her standing on a cliff of crystal plains under twin suns, her skin alight with shifting constellations, bioluminescent patterns running like rivers. Two hearts hammered in her chest, harmonizing with the rhythm in his own veins. Adam gasped, ripping the scanner off his head. You're not who you say you are. Ilara's breath caught. Her mask of calm cracked just enough to reveal something raw beneath. Adam, no. He rose from the chair, swaying slightly, his muscles twitching with unnatural strength. No more lies. What the hell are you doing to me? Her throat worked as if the words burned on the way out. You're evolving. He stared, heart pounding like war drums. The flickering blue in his eyes intensified, bleeding into the whites like threads of light. His fingers curled around the steel arm of the chair and crushed it as if it were paper. Evolving into what? His voice carried an undertone now, resonant, layered like chords from an alien instrument. Ilara stepped closer, and for the first time, Adam saw fear in her gaze, not fear of him as a threat, but fear of what he was becoming. Something new, she whispered. Something neither of us can control. The alarms hadn't started yet, but Adam felt them coming echoing faintly in the hall, carried by the awareness blooming under his skin like fire. And beneath that awareness, a deeper truth pulsed a voice that was not his own, speaking in harmonics that made his bones hum. "We have waited for you." The message arrived without fanfare, just a muted tone from Alara's terminal that made her stomach tighten. She glanced at the encrypted feed. Terminate the subject within 48 hours. Data upload required. Do not compromise containment protocols. She stared at the words until they blurred. The council had decided. Adam wasn't a patient anymore. He was a variable, a dangerous anomaly. If his integration continued at this pace, he wouldn't just break the rules of biology. He'd break balance across two civilizations. Ilara shut the terminal, her reflection swimming across the black glass. Two hearts hammered beneath her ribs in discord. This was science, she told herself. Procedure, nothing personal. Except when she closed her eyes. She saw the look on his face when he crushed that steel arm like foil, confusion burning in those lightning-flecked eyes. He wasn't a weapon. He was awake, and she'd let him be. The lab door hissed open, dragging her back to the present. Adam stepped in, unsteady but upright, his gray uniform clinging to a body that looked taut, coiled like a spring wound, too. Tight, sweat traced lines down his temples. His pupils were blown wide, glowing faint blue in the sterile light. "Doc," he said, voice rasping. "Something's wrong. What happened?" She was at his side before she thought to move, her fingers grazing the heat radiating off his skin. His pulse slammed against her touch fast, irregular, like two heartbeats trying to sync. "Everything's loud." He pressed his palms to his temples. "The walls, the machines held you. I can hear you breathing from across the room. I can feel you thinking." A cold thread slid down her spine. "Sit," she said, guiding him toward the diagnostic bed. "I need to stabilize your neural response." She reached for the cranial interface, but his hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not harsh, never harsh, but the strength behind it was terrifying, like holding a compressed storm. "Elara." His voice layered, two tones interwoven. "Tell me the truth. What did you put inside me?" Her practiced words withered. There was no point in lies now. A compound designed to test cross-species genomic compatibility. It should have triggered minor changes, immune optimization, regenerative efficiency. Not this. "Cross-species?" he echoed, eyes narrowing. "Meaning, I'm not human," she said softly. The words tasted like betrayal, even though they were truth. His breath left him in a shaky laugh. "Knew it. Dreams, voices, glowing skin. It wasn't just in my head, was it?" She almost smiled, but the humor curdled when the monitor shrieked. A warning tone. Neural activity spiking beyond safe thresholds. Heat shimmered off him now, warping the air, making her lab feel like the core of a star. "Adam, listen to me," she said, snatching an injector from the tray. "If I don't dampen the surge, your synapses will overload." Pain slammed through him mid-sentence. He doubled over with a strangled cry, fingers digging furrows into the reinforced metal floor. Light burst across his skin like molten veins, running in patterns she recognized from Proximan transformation stages, except these weren't Proximan. They were something else. "Elara," his voice fractured, harmonics cascading like breaking glass. "Make it stop." She pressed the injector to his neck. The fluid hissed into his bloodstream. For a moment, nothing changed. Then his body jolted, muscles seizing, breath tearing from his lungs. The monitors went black. No, no, no. Elara grabbed the resus controls, slamming them to life. Adam lay motionless, steam curling from his skin, his chest too still. The door burst. Open. Dr. Terran stood there, flanked by security drones. His expression was granite. Step away from the subject, Voss. He's not a subject, Ilara snapped, shielding Adam's body with her own. Terran's eyes flicked to the monitors. Integration breach. Neural surge beyond tolerance. We warned you this would happen. Now move. Behind her, Adam's chest rose on a jagged inhale. His eyes snapped open, blazing blue shot with silver. The light in them wasn't human. And when he spoke, it wasn't just sound. It was resonance that shook the glassware on the shelves. I'm not dying in this box. The security alarms erupted, red strobes igniting the sterile white lab like blood on bone. And Ilara, heart-pounding double time, realized two things at once. One, the Council's timeline had just collapsed. Two, Adam wasn't something they could kill anymore, not without burning the entire world. Asterisk. The alarm screamed like a living thing, drowning the sterile hum of the lab in a pulse of crimson light. Panels slid open along the walls, earthing automated. Turrets that whirred to life with cold precision. Security drones swept in, metal limbs clacking like bones on tile. Their optics flared red as they locked on Adam's heat signature. Ilara, move, Terran barked over the noise, his voice steel and static. Containment protocol is live. She didn't move. She stood between Adam and the guns, her body. Taut, her heart's pounding against the ribs of her human disguise. Adam was on the floor, but he wasn't broken. Not anymore. His skin burned with bioluminescent veins, patterns crawling like molten rivers across his arms and throat. The air around him shimmered, bending in waves like heat rising off asphalt. Ilara, Terran warned, his hand brushing the stun pistol at his belt. Step aside, or I will. The world convulsed. A thunderclap without sound slammed through the lab, hurling Terran against the wall and freezing the drones mid-stride. Their limbs locked, servos whining helplessly as invisible pressure wrapped around them like steel bands. Even the turrets shuddered, their barrels buckling inward, metal crumpling like foil. Adam rose slowly, every movement rippling with raw, unshaped power. His eyes glowed like fractured sapphire, threads of silver spiraling through the blue. When he spoke, his voice was no longer a voice. It was layered, resonant, vibrating in Ilara's bones. Don't touch her. Terran tried to speak, but the air thickened around his throat, cutting the words before they formed. Adam's gaze held him suspended like an insect in amber, every nerve screaming under a force Terran couldn't name. For a heartbeat, Ilara feared Adam would crush him without a second thought, and maybe without meaning to. Adam, she said, stepping closer, forcing her voice through the static that prickled along her skin. Listen to me. We have to go. Now. His eyes flicked to hers, and for an instant, the storm calmed. The humming pressure in the room eased, and Terran collapsed, coughing raggedly. The turrets lay twisted heaps, drones strewn like broken toys. Where? Adam's voice cracked like a fault line splitting rock. My ship, Ilara said. Hangar B 2 levels down. She grabbed his wrist, his skin hot as a forge, and pulled. He followed, barefoot on the cold floor, leaving faint smears of blue luminescence like constellations marking their path. Behind them, klaxons roared, sealing doors with metallic shutters. The Nexus facility had shifted into full lockdown. Asterisk. They ran through corridors that flexed with automated defenses, panels vomiting drones and stun projectors in their path. But every time, Adam moved before Ilara could think. He flicked his fingers, and drones imploded like crumpled cans. A glance, and security fields sparked, collapsing into showers of light. His control wasn't perfect. Every burst left him shuddering, sweat beading like molten glass on his skin, but his instincts were lethal. He wasn't learning power. He was power got. By the time they reached the hangar, the walls shook with the thunder of containment charges arming overhead. Illyra's ship squatted at the far end, disguised as a sleek experimental jet. She sprinted for it, slamming her palm against the access panel. Nothing. The hatch stayed sealed, systems flashing red. "They've hard-locked my codes," she hissed, her breath fogging in the icy air. "I can't override. I can." Adam stepped past her, placing his hand on the ship's hull. His fingers sank a millimeter into the alloy like it was clay. The bioluminescent patterns across his skin pulsed in rhythm with the ship's lights. The hum of dormant engines stirred, deep and eager, like something alive roused from sleep. "Illyra," he said, his voice a low harmonic that rippled through the floor. "It knows me." The ship's systems roared online, lights blazing, thrusters spooling with a scream. The hatch irised open like an awakening eye dot above them. The hangar doors began to close. Security teams poured in, weapons raised, armored boots pounding like drums of war. "Go!" Illyra shoved Adam inside and followed, slamming her palm against the control slab. The hatch sealed just as stun bolts lit the air outside in white fire. She dove into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing over controls that felt suddenly foreign. The ship vibrated, hungry, as if it wasn't listening to her anymore. "Adam," she said, turning toward him. He sat in the co-pilot's chair, skin glowing, eyes burning with cold fire. "Can you?" "I can." His hands hovered over the console, not touching, just commanding. The ship obeyed, lifting off with a shriek of tortured metal, hurling toward the narrowing slit of sky. Bolts hammered the hull, explosions clawed at their wake, but then they were through, bursting into the black throat of the stratosphere. Adam slumped back, chest heaving. His glow dimmed, but not much. Power still rippled beneath his skin like a caged sun. Illyra looked at him, really looked, and for the first time since the experiment began, she felt something colder than fear and sharper than awe. There was no going back. Asterisk, the stars hung like frozen fire beyond the viewport, Jupiter's storms churning below in endless silence. The abandoned outpost clung to Europa's shadowed crust, a relic of old mining ventures, now little more than steel bones, buried in ice. For Illyra, it was a perfect hiding place, isolated, shielded by Jupiter's magnetic field, far from the Alliance scanners that were already sweeping the system like vultures. Adam floated in the suspension chamber, bathed in dim sapphire light. His body was a map of alien constellations, now bioluminescent sigils rippling beneath his skin, shifting with a rhythm that wasn't human. His chest rose and fell slowly, the motion languid, almost regal, but the air around him trembled with latent energy, a pressure that made the station's walls groan. Illyra watched him from the control bank, her reflection fractured across the glass panels. 3 days without real sleep, her veins humming with fear and awe in equal measure. She'd monitored transformations before, controlled, predictable, mapped across centuries of Proximan science. But this was Genesis in real time, rewriting every equation she had ever trusted. "Neova," she murmured, summoning the ship's eye through the secure link. "Status," the voice replied, calm as ever. "Integration is stabilizing. Molecular architecture nearing completion. Estimated 2 hours until emergence." "Emergence," Illyra repeated softly, pressing her palm to the glass of the chamber. The heat radiating through it was unreal, as if Adam were a star cocooned in flesh. "What are you becoming?" Behind her, the corridor lights flickered. Not a power failure, something else. A ripple brushed her consciousness, like fingers grazing her thoughts. Her heart stuttered, and his eyes opened. Blue. Not the soft brown flecked with light she'd known before, but deep, endless blue laced with silver threads that moved like living currents. When his gaze locked on hers, the neural dampers on. Her wrist flared, then burned out in a hiss of smoke. "Let me out." The words didn't come from his lips. They resonated inside her mind, thrumming through her bones. "Adam," she whispered, throat dry. "The transformation isn't complete?" His voice layered through her, harmonics stroking her neurons like molten wire. "It won't finish in here. I need air. I need." You. The seals released with a hiss. The chamber split like a steel chrysalis, fluid spilling across the grated floor in steaming rivulets. He stepped out, and for a heartbeat, Alara forgot how to breathe. He was still Adam Broad's shoulders, lean frame, but his flesh shimmered with shifting constellations, veins pulsing like rivers of light. When he moved, gravity bent around him. In ripples, space seemed to hesitate. "How do you feel?" Her voice was barely sound. "Complete," he said, and the word carried more power than a warship's engines. He flexed his fingers, leaving afterimages hanging in the air like echoes. Then he looked at her, and everything inside her rebelled against protocol, against fear. His presence filled the room, filled her, brushing every barrier in her mind until they shattered like glass dot. And then contact. A neural flood crashing between them, raw and infinite. Not invasive. Not conquest. Convergence. She felt his heartbeat, not one, but two, since to hers like twin suns aligning. She saw herself reflected in his thoughts, brilliant, fragile, luminous, and beneath that, a galaxy of futures branching like veins of light. Alara. His voice whispered inside her, braided with awe and something deeper. This was never just a test. Her breath caught. Then what was it? "A signal," he said, stepping closer, his hand rising to trace the line of her jaw. His touch left trails of living light on her skin, her body answering in kind as dormant patterns shimmered to life across her disguise. "You didn't make me, Alara. You woke me." Cold terror threaded through her awe. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm not alone." His gaze tilted upward, past her, into the black sea of stars beyond the viewport. There are others, waiting, and now they know it's time. The outpost systems flared, consoles erupting with impossible data streams. Long-range sensors lit up like fireworks, as frequencies no human or Proximan tech could read pulsed outward in echo from Adam's mind, riding waves of raw energy. Responses came, dozens, hundreds, hidden signals flickering to life across the solar system, across interstellar voids. "They're coming for us," Alara said, her heart's pounding with a fear that tasted like fire. "The Council, Earth, they'll burn this place to ash." Adam's smile was a quiet cataclysm, his eyes reflecting stars that didn't exist yet. "Then we'll show them what evolution really means." His hand slid into hers, warm and radiant, as ships stirred in the dark and war drums thundered across two worlds that had no idea their age of dominance had just ended. Behind him, Jupiter's storms raged, and in their reflected light, Adam shone like something born of both chaos and design. Not human. Not PROX, I'm in something greater. The experiment was over, and the universe would never be the same. The end.